Welcome to Silicon Insights, a series of interviews where we talk to, I guess, leading business thinkers and CEOs of larger corporations and also small businesses, where we try to gain I guess, an insight into kind of what makes their business tick, what their sort of thoughts and feelings are about their particular industry, but also we're looking for sort of comment, debate, and also expertise. That's what this series is kind of all about. Well, I'm your host, David Howell, the editor in chief here at Silicon UK. I'm delighted to welcome Izzy Rivers, the CEO of Realm, to this first Silicon Insights. Well, welcome, Izzy.
Thanks, Dave. It's brilliant to be here.
Well, thanks for joining us. So this is our inaugural event, I guess, or chat or interview, whatever we're calling these. They're kind of insights. We want to speak to I guess, a spectrum of different people, different business leaders, thinkers. We're looking for quite a diverse range of people. Now, I guess before we sort of get into our conversation, I'd like to, I guess, kick off with a bit of background. Who's Izzy? What brought you to becoming CEO of Realm? So, what's your background, Izzy?
Well, I've been in B2B marketing for about 23 years, specifically in the media land. So I've worked at a lot of larger organizations, so the Dentsus and the WPPs of the world. Indeed. And decided in 2020 to leave and start my own company with my co-founder called Realm. So we're a global media agency for B2B clients specifically, predominantly in technology and fintech and financial services. And what we're really passionate about, I think, is bringing very cohesive marketing programs to our audiences to actually make them do something and to work very closely with our clients in sort of a very kind and proactive environment.
Well, thanks for that. It's interesting you talk about marketing landscapes. Because I was thinking about this the other day. I was speaking to a couple of marketers, particularly in tech. And I was asking them how they felt their industry had changed, and particularly what the landscape looks like today. Post-pandemic, people are looking at what their roadmaps are looking like. How is that business going to function? What's marketing? Is it changed? In all of these elements. That's quite a melting pot.
That's a lot.
Yeah. So what's kind of your take on that? I mean, we're focusing on B2B, of course. But do you feel the landscape has changed? Are we in a different space than maybe we were 3 years ago?
I think audiences have changed. And I think that the shift that we're seeing with different members of whatever you want to call it, the buying team, the buying center, the people that come together to make a purchase decision, their expectations have changed. And there's more of a blur between consumers and B2B customers and what they expect out of media and what they expect out of brands. And I think that's what's driving the market landscape changes. And you see that with the large macro shifts that are happening at the moment, whether that's online subscription services, faster communications from B2B clients, not just speaking to 5 different salespeople, even privacy. The expectations that these people have in their consumer lives are now going into their business lives. Well,
that's interesting, isn't it? I remember reading a few years ago that a lot of businesses were trying to figure out, I guess, how to evolve their B2B. And a lot of people were saying, well, you need to be a little bit more like consumers. Take what the B2C space is doing and bring that into your B2B. Look at what the nuggets of information, data, experience. So we talk a lot about CX these days, and particularly EX as well. Let's not forget employees.
All the X's.
EXs, all the X's, absolutely. X is very important. That's an interesting one, isn't it? That you bring a lot of that material in from B2C. Is there also a financial element as well? Are people also obviously clearly looking at budgets? But are budgets kind of morphing as well? Are they spending in different places? Is that also kind of in the equation?
I think you hit the nail on the head there in terms of spending in different places. I mean, look, it's been a crazy few years, right? And now what have we had? We've had a few years of pandemic, and now we're heading into what is a global recession for all that the different countries are trying to say that they're not in a global recession.
No, we are.
Yeah. So, I mean, are marketing departments going to start seeing budgets that are cut?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, they are. And that will probably be no matter the size of the organization, small, medium, or large. But I don't think that the cuts are going to be as drastic as perhaps they could be, because of the competitive environment that's still left over from the pandemic, because of the shifts in the technology market, the SaaS market in particular. Marketing is actually one of the things that can help get companies out of.
Well, that's an old nugget, isn't it?
Right.
What do we do when we hit a recession? What's the first thing we do? We start slashing marketing. We start slashing the advertising budget.
Yes.
And every piece of research I've ever read, the businesses that don't do that, in fact, they increase their budgets, do better. They weather the storm. But I think what you're saying is that where you spend that, where you focus that spend, that may be slightly different, or at least it's more of a nuanced approach.
Yeah, because that's a traditional argument, right? But marketers have been using that argument for the past 4 years, because that was the argument they used during the pandemic when sales cycles extended or doubled. And now we're into what, year 3, year 4, year 5? It's all blurring into one. And it's, marketers can't use that anymore. So I think the cuts are being quite strategic. I'm seeing some really interesting cuts around technology space, for example, in the MarTech and the AdTech stacks. Because, potentially you could say with technology adoption in B2B marketing over the last 10 years even, has been quite a matrix thing. You get different people in the organizations buying different pieces of technology. They're not necessarily joined up together. Those people then leave and go somewhere else. And then you've got legacy tech that no one's using or not being used particularly well. And I think a lot of pieces of technology, particularly in the ABM spaces, for example, and CRM spaces, were sold as a silver bullet for sales and marketing integration. And if things aren't delivering, they're going to get minimized.
Of course. It's interesting as well that, are you also seeing, well, we haven't really talked about skills, have we? We haven't really talked about what it means to be, I guess what you're talking about, what it means to be a marketer today, and also the tool set you're using. Now, if that is legacy, let's not mention any names, but we know who we're talking about, legacy marketing applications and services.
Yeah.
It seems to me the landscape it's kind of fragmented a bit, and I think business leaders are maybe a little confused. What do we buy next to put our businesses on a trajectory for growth? Let's look at marketing again. So what are the kind of tools we should be buying? Are they different? Are they the same? But more importantly, who's going to use these? And it seems to me that what you're touching on is kind of skills as well, retaining talent, and kind of thinking about how that all feeds into how marketing is evolving. Got to have the right people.
Yes, that covered a lot of ground, I think, but that's a great place to start in terms of the right people. Look, it's a challenge to get the right people anyway, because everybody wants the right people, although the market, unfortunately, is flooded at the moment with some very good people from tech companies that have been let go. So I'd encourage anybody to go and look for them if they're in the market for people. But it's not just the right people, it's also then about the right communication. Yeah. Because a lot of these technology platforms are great technology platforms. They've been invented to solve an issue, and a lot of them do that very well. And it's really in terms of how they're deployed and who's involved with how they're deployed. Like, is it truly acting as a bridge between departments, whether that's marketing departments, sales departments, advocacy and customer care, the 3 key pillars of any, B2B organization. These can be tremendously powerful pieces of technology, but how are they being leveraged? And that is the right people and the right skill sets, the right communication between, and then also the right clean data that goes into it in the first place. Because if you're not, is that another oldie but a goodie? Is if you put rubbish in, you get rubbish out.
Garbage
right?
in, garbage out. Yeah, absolutely, every time.
Yeah.
And also, I think another element is customer service. I guess the kind of sharp end, I guess, of a business when you're trying to contact companies or trying to understand, I guess, how that's evolving. So I guess for Ralph, are you connecting sales, marketing, and customer service? Is that the kind of trinity which you're connecting together to deliver, I guess, next gen marketing for clients?
That's the holy grail. I would say there's been a lot of good work being done in the last 10 years to move towards sort of a customer identity model. So really understanding
Yeah.
who is the person that we're marketing for, what do they need, and what do they convert on? Because especially for large organizations, these people might already be a customer. They might already be in the
Course.
CRM database. You might be trying to move them from a legacy system to a cloud-based system, for example.
Yep.
So it has to be tapped in to the customer care team and the existing data team. There
Of
has
course.
to be first party
Absolutely.
data cleanse. So I think there's some practical things to do with, you know, bringing these pieces of data together.
Of course.
But just to tie back to one of your earlier comments on, you know, what are people spending on during this pandemic as well, that relates to the first party data.
Of course.
Because when you think about it, we're all heading into a recession. So I'm sure most families have sat down and they've done a list of all the things that
All
they
the
spend their
budgets.
money on, and they've started moving bills, moving to different providers, cutting things out that they don't need anymore,
Yep.
spending less on Deliveroo. No, just saying that for a friend. So that's exactly what these companies are doing as we head into a recession.
Sure.
It's exactly what they're doing. And that's why some legacy tech's going. This also leads into this advocacy thing. It's
Yep.
because the one thing you don't want to do is shrink. So there's
Absolutely.
winning new customers to fulfill any churn, for sure.
Of course.
But a lot of companies are just trying to get through the next 3 years and still be here and still be healthy and maximize their profitable growth indicators and their margins, whether they're looking for a sale at the end or not.
Yes, I think that's a pressing concern for a lot of business leaders. The other thing I hear a lot of is, I guess, measurement. How do we know that we are doing well? How do we measure that?
Yes.
You know, traditional KPIs and all the rest of it, all, you know, that kind of thing, which I guess is common for lots of different elements of businesses. I think when you come to marketing, it's often, what can we say? It can be out of focus in some areas. And are you hearing that KPIs have to change? How you are designing new metrics? Maybe, particularly for, you know, so if we focus on B2B tech space, for instance, is that something that's evolving forward? Are you guys being asked to literally come back with some new metrics and some new KPIs?
Yes, I mean, those have been evolving over the last few years. Look, there's been a double down on growth and profitable growth at that.
Sure.
That means that business KPIs have evolved, and that needs to then be reflected through the indicators that are coming into the business.
Sure.
You know, B2B marketing, yes, it's brand awareness, yes, it's engagement, but there's always been an onus to measure that on the actual impact that it's having on the business. It's just that those KPI metrics traditionally were owned by business leadership and sales.
Indeed.
But with the digital transformation we've seen in the last 5 years, they're now, a lot of them are held by marketing.
Yeah.
There we used to be, oh my goodness, how can we get the MQL rate up, and how can we measure the impact this brand campaign's had on pipeline velocity?
Yep.
And now it's, what's the actual ticketed revenue numbers that are coming in? Because technology can measure that.
Yeah, indeed.
So the KPIs are sort of coming up the funnel, I guess you could say.
They're surfacing, and they are morphing as well into a kind of a different beast, it seems to me. What it used to be I guess a solid, we earned this from this campaign.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more like it was in early days of social media. We're pretty sure Twitter's good for us. We're pretty sure it's earning something for it. We can't really measure it yet.
Or used to.
Yeah, used to.
Pre the current.
You can now, obviously. But then it was kind of the intangibles. It was this kind of fog which sat around marketing a little bit.
But that's a really good point, because making the intangible tangible is just as important as new KPIs.
Of course.
Because it's not to say that the KPIs that existed before were wrong.
No.
It's just that there are additional ones now within the set of marketing particularly.
Okay.
And I mean, one thing that's true is because marketing is now a driver of business change as well as the revenue that's coming in, and because we're going into a recession, there are more CEO, business leadership eyes on that budget. You alluded to that when you're talking about cuts, because it's a non-headcount line item.
Indeed.
It's very easy to get rid of on the P&L,
Absolutely.
but which is always a challenge. However, it's also, I think, an opportunity to have those eyes on marketing to really educate the board on what KPIs have value in addition to just the number that comes.
Not just the number.
Those might be traditional, because then you're talking about communication efforts. It's not just identifying what isn't working and then cutting what isn't working. It's doing a really good job of identifying what is working and then doubling down in those areas to make sure that you're bringing more of that in. And marketing is a huge advocate for that because they see most of that customer life cycle.
I think it's kind of a new age. It's quite exciting as well. I think if you were in marketing today, and B2B especially, I always feel that B2B gets a bit of a bad rap when it comes to
people need to stop doing that. I love this industry.
It's business customers are just as interesting and exciting as a consumer is. I think that's kind of where we're moving towards with with marketing activity. It's more in the B2B space. It can be massively creative. Again, pulling in ideas from B2C, but for a B2B audience.
Strategy has always been so important in B2B. I mean, my background's in strategy anyway, so I love it. But you've got a lot of technology companies that can look and feel the same. Technology blue is there for a reason. And you need the differentiation. Like, why buy one over another? And creativity is the way to answer that. And I definitely, one of the reasons I love B2B more than consumer is I think the more constraints you put on something, the more creative you have to be.
Sure.
If your brief is wide open and we want to target 18 to 34-year-olds and we want them to do anything, we just want them to know who we are. Well, where's the creativity in that?
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because I'm very interested in getting your sort of take on advocacy. We kind of touched on it a little bit, but it seems to me advocacy in the B2C was and continues to be an extremely powerful tool. Or it can be extremely powerful if you understand it and you apply it correctly, I guess, or you nurture it. What's your take on that for B2Bs? Because it seems to me advocacy can be for them almost more powerful than for B2Cs. You get a nugget of a client base, you look after them, and they kind of do your marketing for you. If you look after them, and the advocacy moving forward for B2B seems to me to be a kind of an essential and a really an important step, or something important to understand for marketers.
I think loyalty and looking after your customers is at the heartland of B2B because it's a finite universe.
Indeed.
Right? And the chances are, depending on the size you are, if you're a small company, you can buy the list of all the CEOs in the land. And if you're a large company, they're probably already in your database. They're just moving around. So this gets back to that point of, customers have different expectations now. If you know who they are, know where they are, know what they want, know if you've had previous engagements with them, know if they hate your products, love your products. So yes, loyalty is everything because these people are usually known to you.
Indeed.
And then the other point that I wanted to make is that I think it goes hand in hand with R&D.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because FinServe and FinTech is a slightly different beast because it moves a little bit more slowly because of all the red tape. We know that. But let's use technology as the example. You don't have a faster moving pace of change and, technological advancements that you do in the technology sphere in B2B. That's where the money is. That's where it all gets pushed. It's billions and billions and billions of dollars. So you need to keep a handle on your current customer base to keep moving them on to the latest iteration.
Oh, so advocacy becomes a kind of feedback loop.
It does, and that's you've got digital transformation threads are a big part of that because you've got people you want to move them from legacy to cloud. You want to move them to subscription, so that's fantastic. And the subscription model has been phenomenal for moving people onto more control over pricing, more control over dynamic renewals, whatever it happens to be, easier conversions online, less large sales teams. But it also comes with those lower barriers to entry also are lower barriers to exit.
Yep, sure.
So the SaaS market, we're now seeing that go down actually the last couple, of course. I mean, you'll know this, Dave. And that in itself is a threat. But managing the happiness and the renewal rate of your current customer base, that will be huge in the next couple of years.
It's interesting you alluded with happiness with in a B2B context.
Yes.
Yeah. Do we need to keep them happy? Well, yeah, kind of.
Yeah, you do.
Happiness, if we can measure that, if there's a metric there, do keep them happy because that's how you retain.
And it's a challenge because they're happiest when they don't need to talk to you and it's all working.
It's odd, isn't it? B2C was like you keep in touch with them all the time. Hammer them almost, hammer them with everything. B2B, it's a little bit more hands off. It's a case of it works, and if we're not on the phone to customer services all the time, we're happy bunnies.
Yeah.
And if we're happy bunnies, we stay with you. And decades go by. That's kind of where we are with loyalty and with advocacy, and that's kind of where we want to be, which is very interesting. I want to come back to I guess a question about CX, and I mean I think it's massively important. I guess now after the pandemic to try and get that right. But if businesses are focusing their marketing on sales, is that also reducing churn? If you can do CX really well, are you going to be able to hang on to everyone you want to do? You want all your staff, and also, I would also say that if you could do that well, you will also again feedback and hold on to your key clients.
Yes. I mean, I suppose just to take a step back on that for the sake of anybody who's watching or listening that doesn't know, in CX in this example, we're talking about true customer experience, right? And how people experience your brand, either pre or post sale, in a cohesive, consistent and helpful way, right? And that's why I say we start with audiences. It's the audience behavior that is driving CX, because people now expect you to be there whenever they want you, any time of day. They don't want to call the call center. They expect there to be a chat bot. If they want to get hold of you at 2 o'clock in the morning, why not? Because that's what they do in their consumer lives. So this way that audiences are driving that customer experience is they own the journey. That it's their touch points, it's on their control, their demand that's driving it. So the CX, it's the whole life cycle for sure. And it's about being responsive, consistent. Yes, data plays a huge role because you want to see how people are actually interacting at different stages of that journey. But it's also content and creative, and having the relevant information available. It's good search, having a great website. Sometimes it's the basics.
The basics can often be, I guess, quite challenging for some businesses. Can we get those right before we start thinking about interesting creative? I mean, is it also a case that people come to Realm and they simply ask you the question, where do we begin? How do we start? We kind of know where we want to get to. We have a new strategic plan. We've ripped the old one and we started again. Marketing is absolutely central to that. How are we going to reach customers, etc. But with a landscape that is, I guess, it has so much to choose from. Do you hear a lot? Is there paralysis? Just where do we start on this road? Are you often asked to, well, tell us, how do we begin?
Yes, certainly for some of the smaller mid-sized clients. For some of the mid to larger sized clients, it's more, how do we make this better? How do we bring things together? How are we more cohesive?
Yeah, they already have the elements, but they have trouble, I guess, integrating them together into a marketing plan or a strategy. We have the bits.
Yes.
We just can't. How do we glue them together?
And I think that's, we can't answer that or speak to that without talking about account-based marketing.
Yeah, indeed.
Because sales teams and accounts have always converted on businesses, right? It's an account that buys a piece of software. Usually it's not one individual.
That's right.
So that's always been the case. And marketing has always been attempting to support that. And some still do fantastic brand campaigns to personas, for sure. We do a lot of persona advertising. But we always look to move that audience DNA through activation to an account level eventually. Because that's where you can start seeing real interactions that are sales-led.
That's where it begins.
Yes, multiple people from the same business that are looking to buy. How are we seeing them surge on different trends? How are we seeing them actually convert? That's where people are bringing in more new technologies. On the back end in clients. So bringing in those ABM to sit alongside the CRM systems to start doing this analysis. Very few clients are on the contact level yet, unless they happen to be large and they're building their own solutions for that in-house using those technologies. But I think, we get asked an awful lot to help bring things back to this sort of marketable, performance-driven, workable solution. And often that's bringing things together to be more cohesive. So a red line strategy that's audience-driven that actually moves the needle at the end of it.